I think everything is so much simpler sometimes than we try to make it. We don't have to have things be so difficult for them to be working in our life. You are in control. You're the navigator in your life. As much as our mind runs away with us, we get to be the one that calls it back and says, you know, I don't think I want to go into fear or anxiety right now. I want to play with what it might look like in success or joy or calm or comfort.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vibrant Soul Society, The Conversations. I'm your host, Baba Sam, the Miracle Man. Today with us, we have a bright, vibrant soul, Laura. Laura, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. I love conversation. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome. Let's begin for people that are not familiar with you. Who is Laura?
Who is Laura? Laura is this amazing woman that continues to live life and change and experience so much of it in so many different ways. Right now, I enjoy spending time with my family, hanging out. I also work online with people to help them. I use hypnosis. I use color, which is a super fun thing to introduce to people to help them change the path and change the way that their subconscious is working for them so that they can get where they want to go without it being really difficult or taking a really long time. I like it to be quick, complete, and pretty smooth. So that's a little about me.
What got you into the colors? Was there something that got you interested in colors or hypnotherapy? How did that unfold for you?
Well, I consider myself a little bit of a cross of the practical and the woo. I still do woo. Some people, that's what they call it. I do intuitive work. I'm a professional intuitive and astrologer as well. And I've done those for a very long time. For whatever reason, something popped up in my brain that said, let's do something a little different. Let's do something really, really practical. I consider the way that I do those really practical too. But you follow and you go along with it. And I kept hearing about hypnosis. And so I started digging around, looking as we often do when we hear those things. One of the things I heard about it was that you can go in and help people without having to know their whole backstory. They don't have to tell you all the trauma they've been through or all the difficulties. I thought, wow, that's really a cool thing because a lot of people struggle with talking about things or simply don't want to. But that doesn't mean that they don't want to heal and they don't want help. And so that was the hook that grabbed me in. And I've learned so much about how the subconscious works, why we do the things we do, and how to help with that. Around the same time, with color, work with a wonderful guy. His name's Dougal Fraser. And I just loved his name. So I had to go seek him out. Somebody told me about him. And he works all in color. He's an intuitive and a coach, and he does all these things. And so I did a color certification course with him, and it was really based around energy and work with energy. But for me, our subconscious works in that energetic realm. The connection with the subconscious seemed really easy for me. So I think it's a great way for us to tap into the change that we want because we see color around us every day. If I want to get clarity on something, it's really easy to set the intention, kind of activate the color, which is all about clarity. It's like we're giving our subconscious directions that says, oh, Laura wants clarity. And then without me having to even think about it, I've activated that color white. I've put that into play. And yes, I do put something super simple. I can wear a white shirt. I might put a white piece of paper out, something like that. Even if it's not that conscious thing that I've done, every time I see white, my mind goes, oh, Laura's looking for clarity. And so it's going to go search for those things that are going to bring me clarity, the answers that I want, the change that I'm seeking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense because color is basically frequency, energy, and we are that. It's really tapping into those energies, those frequencies, and the intention behind them.
Yes, it just is so fun and simple and easy. And it brings about things in ways that you might not even imagine are possible. But I love that we're able to tap into it with such ease. I think everything is so much simpler sometimes than we try to make it. We don't have to have things be so difficult for them to be working in our life.
Right. And I see simple and easy is more aligned to our true nature or essence. It's the mind that likes difficulties and they make things too complicated and overcomplicate. So I think the simplest path is usually the correct path for that person. If they find it simple and not overthinking, then it aligns with them.
I think so. That's what I've found in my life. I've changed a lot of things and I dove into different things along my path years ago. I remember specifically saying to someone, it's just got to be a lot simpler. I was changing my path to go in a different direction. And I've really held to that. And I find it to be really true.
So it's kind of interesting for you. It was just like you had an idea, I want to explore hypnosis or whatever it was, and that sparked you. There was anything personally going on with your life that you wanted to solve that got you interested, or just an intuitive curiosity?
Well, I started getting involved in hypnosis just before I kind of experienced some stuff, but I have used it most definitely to change things. But I wasn't aware initially when I dug into hypnosis that it could change things physically for people, that it could clear chronic issues, chronic fatigue, that it would get rid of IBS, that it could help with pain in your body. I wasn't aware of all the things that our subconscious mind runs and does and why we experience all of that. Finding out why was like this incredibly huge bubble that burst for me. And it was like, oh, okay, now I get it. I started studying hypnosis right before all the lovely pandemic stuff that hit. And then I actually got COVID. And so I remember right at the end, I got really sick. And thankfully, not in the hospital or anything. But what I experienced was the long COVID. And that was before they were really talking about it. So it felt a little crazy what was happening to me. Like, I don't understand why everybody's getting better and I'm not getting better. And so all of this stuff started happening in my body and I had to come to terms with some things. But in that process and kind of learning what that was like, it allowed me to not only find a new compassion in myself for people dealing with chronic issues, but it also helped me to learn that our mind regulates a lot of things and we can help with some of that through hypnosis and really shift the way going forward.
That's great. So what I was picking up and your soul was preparing you before the crisis. Let's learn hypnosis before the crisis comes. And you followed that intuitive hit. A lot of people don't because we're in the midst of a crisis. It's really hard to learn a practice. So your soul was guiding you and you were curious enough. What's really good. You listened to yourself.
I think if something's presenting itself often enough, you really need to pay attention to it. It doesn't need to be a flashing neon sign, although some people get that. But if you have something really coming into the conscious world in front and you're like, oh, that's fascinating or that's interesting or what's that about? But you don't follow up on it. I think it, first of all, it's probably going to come back. And then you'd wish you'd done it a little bit sooner. But when you are in that, explore it a little bit. And check in with, if you have guides or you have whoever it is that you check in with or whatever it is, yourself, the universe, however you distinguish it, check in and go, okay, what is happening here? What is the exploration process? Do I need to dig deeper or is this just something I need to be a little bit aware of? For me, it was definitely about digging deeper, really hit my soul. I'm from a military family and I'm very proud of that. A lot of our people in military and police services and others, even doctors, experience things that they're not able to talk about. They cannot share specifics about what happened on this mission or with this person, but they have them inside of them. Their body is very aware of what they've experienced, as is their mind. And so if I can work with a part of them without having to say, I need you to tell me all of the things so that I can and pick them apart and do all these things. If I can do that without them having, because they're not allowed even to do it, and I can help someone, then I am definitely going to dive into that. So I did some really specialized training in PTSD and CPTSD, in hypnosis, to really help some of those people that are not only experiencing one tiny thing, they're not just having sleep issues, or they're not just having anxiety, they're having the laundry list of things that are going on. I dealt with someone who had seven, 17, and I've had more. I think someone else had maybe 20, but I know at least one person had 17 different things on that list. Serious things they were dealing with. It's a really short process. That's the thing I really love about hypnosis. It doesn't take doesn't take years. It takes weeks or less. Within weeks, this person had cleared or really turned down and was in the process of clearing all of those 17 things. That's like magic to me. So it's really fun to be able to help someone in that way.
I think one of your skills that a lot of people will dismiss is that natural curiosity, questioning, diving deeper. A lot of things in society, we just take that face value. And you start to look like, what's going on here? Let's dive a little deeper. Let's be a little bit curious. And that's really opened up my path as well when I was curious and really diving in and opened up a whole new avenue I wasn't even aware of. And I think it's also important that you're not diving into their backstory, their trauma, because a lot of times that's bring up a lot of triggers, a lot of stuff, a lot of emotional debris. So it's harder to work through that energetically and to bring all this stuff up. You can say, okay, you experienced this. These are some things that will help clear it without dragging it up to take away that energy. Is that what you're finding?
Yes, because there are these little parts inside of us. If you think about it, we have all these little versions of us, and a lot of them are hurt little versions. We have this little person who maybe was a year old that experienced a fight. Their parents had a big fight. For that little tiny person, that was pretty traumatic. And that was like a little hook that got put inside of them. What our subconscious does is it comes up and says, I've got you, because that's its job. It's going to keep us safe. It's going to protect us. But it comes forward and it brings this other little warrior version forward to deal with that moment, and you get to move forward. And then another something happens. Maybe you're bullied in school and the same thing happens. I've got you. And then you get to move forward. So it's like those little dolls where there's one inside the other, and we have all these little versions inside of ourselves. And what happens, unfortunately, sometimes is those little versions get stuck in that difficult moment, but they're still a part of us. If you've ever had a puppy, that puppy wants attention. If you don't give it attention, it runs off, it chews up your shoes, it duties on your carpet, it does all the things you don't want it to do. If you give it attention, everything goes well. You have this loving friend. Our subconscious is that way. These little versions of us want our attention. They want to be healed. They want to be okay. They want to move forward, can be a part of you. When you give them attention through hypnosis and connect, it no longer holds you hostage. Sometimes I'm a bit like a hostage negotiator, where I go in, if you have this part of you that's really holding on and taking you down paths you don't want to go down, presenting things you don't want to live with. If I can connect you with that version of you inside and things can be worked out, then everything clears and goes forward. It's not the difficulty of trying to climb and deal with things. And it's so hard and you're trying to get up and over the mountain. It's like I have this little secret door underneath. And I say, let's go this way. And we go underneath the mountain. You end up on the other side in the place that you want to be at.
What I was thinking was a person with a list of 17 things. There's probably 17 repressed memories causing those issues. And you probably had to go through and pluck those memories and say, okay, this doesn't serve you anymore. This doesn't serve you anymore. And I think that really does clear up the pathways. It's like magic.
Yeah. What happens, which is lovely, and I do actually instigate that in the work, but I let the person's mind do that. I don't need to go find every one of those, because your mind knows everything. You've experienced it, knows exactly where to go and what to do. One of the most important things is that And this is what happens sometimes with people. They'll do something and they get a little bit better, but then maybe something else shows up or this gets worse. It's like a weed. If you just clip off the top, they grow back or they change, or you've got another weed that popped up. But if we get down to the root, to that one thing that planted that seed, that brought everything about, and you pull that out, all the other stuff comes with it. So if I can get down to the one thing that started the whole process in life, then all of those 17 things are going to automatically clear.
You find the main root where it's all branching off
Yeah.
into. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. And yeah, I would say the conscious mind doesn't really know what's going on. It's really the subconscious that you were talking about before that stores everything. And it's
It
that
does.
subconscious programming that impacts our current reality.
I often like to think of the process with how things work inside of us too. Here's the universe, all that information, everything that is right up here, kind of outside of us. But we have this gateway that comes inside of us, and that's our subconscious. When we allow the information to come into that gateway, filters down into our system, that's where intuition comes in. That's where those things come in that say, oh, let's follow this or let's do this. Our intuition is not our sixth sense, it's our first sense. And so it really does use all the other senses, guide us. So if you really do have a knowing, or you have this really gut feeling about something, or you keep hearing something, that's all of this information that is there for us that says, here's how we can get you where you want to be. And so it's giving you that guide and information to get there.
That's really profound. I really like the way to present that intuition is our first sense. It's our true sense because it's connected to all that is. It's giving us that information, but usually that is repressed because we're taught not to trust yourself.
Oh, yeah. How many times do you walk past something or you do something and you think, oh, I should move that glass, or, oh, I need to do this. And it's like, oh, no, everything's fine. And then sure enough, crash, there goes the glass. It's those little tiny things that when we can practice those, it helps us so much to trust ourselves in the other things that come along the way. That's often I tell people when I'm working with them to help them build their intuition. I often tell them, act on those little things. Even if it seems silly, even if it feels silly, just do it so that you can get used to acting on and acknowledging your intuition. And when you can acknowledge that, you come into an awareness of how you felt during that moment of the information that you got. Awareness changes everything, everything.
Because we usually get lost in the busyness of the mind that's always distracting us. So, do you have a practice to help people get rid of that busy monkey mind, all that chatter, so they can start hearing their intuition? Because sometimes you can't hear because the mind's screaming about every little thing.
Yeah, well, that's one of them. Do the daily thing where you respond to some of those thoughts. And I've been talking about, oh, go jump in the car and drive to Tennessee, unless you're in Tennessee. But I'm talking about the little things. Start to come into a comfort zone with yourself of what you feel and practice. Play with it a little bit. Sit down and write out a question. And then you know what the fun thing is? You can choose any one of your senses to play with. So you might just look up, you've written out this question, and then you might say, okay, I'm just going to look at the first thing that I notice. And I look over and I see a half of a cup of water. And I'm going to sit and write down, what is the information about that half of cup of water? Well, it's in a clear glass. It's water that's really cool. It's refreshing. It feeds my body. It's got some interesting colors on it. I might write down what the colors are because colors often will give us information about what we need to connect with. There's green, there's blue. And so I can write out this little story about this glass of water, and it's going to give me information about that question I just wrote. Because blue is going to be around truth and wisdom. Do I need to tap into my own truth and wisdom? How am I doing with that? Green is around communication, growth, all of those things. Do I need to be communicating a little bit more? Or am I doing okay in how am I communicating? Do I need to boost that? If I want to boost that, I can activate the color green and use that for a week for the energy around me to really move into that. That might direct me in the way I need to go and answer that question.
Right.
Fun.
Yeah, speaking of fun, I was looking at your website and it's like you're doing a lot of mindset work, a lot of intuition. How did astrology come into this?
Astrology came along. I think I was the girl that looked into being a Gemini, which I am. What's that mean? What does that look like? I had two older sisters. Maybe that was part of it. I loved looking at horoscopes. What is it? What's there? Swam in and out of it a little bit, and it seemed really complicated to me. Astrology was like, oh my gosh, they have all these words and they talk about, and I don't get the jargon. It's so much to it. I just thought I could never learn that. I think I would get overwhelmed trying to learn it. And then, of course, in walks the teacher that has it all exactly right and how I can learn it, feeding little bits and pieces along the way. She was just getting started in her teachings, and I was offered an opportunity to step in, and I did. It surprised me because every time I looked at some of the information for a chart and then talked with someone, it was so eye-opening in the accuracy. And of course, you use your intuition in that too. I can look at two charts that have similar things on them, but I'm going to pull out different information in them. One of the things I love about astrology is that it allows me to really, really, really affirm for people a lot of who they're meant to be in this lifetime. Because they're told oftentimes from the time they're tiny, you're too much, settle down. You're too shy, you need to speak more. You're too this, you're too that. Do this differently, do that. And so they come up going, okay, I do have that drive to really be out there, really speak about things, but I'm not supposed to be that bold. When I look at their chart and they have all this fire in their chart, I want to tell them, don't you ever let anybody say that to you again. You are meant to guide, to light the way for us, to be bold, to be the warrior, to be the person who says the things. It's okay to be the person that says the things. And I want to show them that and say, look how amazing you are. You have these things inside of you to really help the world. And I want them to bring those things out and to understand in themselves that there are things sometimes that are opposing. And that's a natural process of who they are. They're pulled this way and then they're pulled that way. And it's like, oh yeah, I always have that conflict going on. And so I show them, here's how to put those together to really work in the best energy possible in your life with that. And so I get to do that. And I get to let people who have a lot of water know that they are very emotional people. Scorpios get a huge bad rap, but they're incredible people. They see things the rest of us do not in this world and in so many realms. Most of them don't understand that what they're seeing, a lot of us can't see. But if I tell them, here's who you are, and here's why maybe people see this from the outside, but you have this beauty and this gift and this amazing thing in this lifetime, don't let go and make sure you keep showing the rest of us. When I can do that, it's an incredible gift to me as well.
Yeah, because it's really our energetic blueprint, and people may be
Yeah.
moving against their default behaviors and wonder why things are not running so smoothly for them. So you can guide them onto that. That's one of your strongest skills, and that probably helps with your practice as well with your intuitive. What's going on a deeper level here?
Most people are not aware that they're oftentimes we do have these natural things that we come into this world with and the natural path for us and the energies that are going to really help us and boost us and the ones that we have to work a little harder in. And then we have this thing that's happened in our brain from the time we're even before we're born to about 7 years old, where we have kind of the hard drive and it's coded into place. And some of that coding might be really working against who you are naturally. And it might be driving you down a road that's difficult, but you have to go in and clear out some of that old coding, maybe add in some new fun things. I love about hypnosis too, because it's not just clearing the stuff out that you no longer need. It's maybe adding in and boosting some things like confidence, motivation, clarity, or calm. If you've been struggling and anxious for a long time, having that moment of calm and being centered, knowing that no matter what happens around you, you're okay. I can't even tell you how much that means because I've experienced that difference in my life from where things used to really throw me in different directions and was really hard. And I would ruminate on it for a long time, maybe one sentence of one conversation, and I would respond to that emotionally. To be able to respond differently now, that doesn't mean I don't get upset. That doesn't mean I don't have bad days. That doesn't mean that I don't have anxiety. I would never want to take away anyone's emotions because that's the human experience. When I talk about clearing things or resetting things, it's about clearing the difficult connection to something that's happened in your life, not clearing away anxiety forever. You might still have a day when you have some anxiety. I hope so, because that's part of the human experience. Now I can experience that, come into the awareness of it, let it flow through my body, and I let it go. I'm not dwelling in it. I've come into a centeredness that says, I don't like that too much. I'm going to have to deal with that. Sadness, anger, joy, happiness, all of it. We're on a roller coaster ride in life, and we're meant to stay in the flow of that and not stay buried in any particular emotion, even the good ones.
Right. Once again, it's building that awareness to understand that it's okay to be human, but what is the root or the source of that causing that energetic disrupt, if you could call it that, without
Yes.
anxiety or stress? Like, what is the underlying root story, and is that really the truth, or is it the mind going off on a tangent?
Right,
Really,
exactly.
so you're giving people those skills so they can work through that.
Yeah. Oftentimes, what I do initially is go in with hypnosis, clear the way, pull the weeds, get rid of the stuff so that it's much easier for you to move forward and do it yourself from that moment. Because honestly, there are times when we get so stuck in where we are, it's so hard that we can't get ourselves out. We need someone to help us. We need that helping hand. We're people, we're in this world. As much as people want to say, I want to go live on a mountaintop and not talk to anybody ever again. That's not the way we're meant to be. We're meant to have that exchange of energy, of self, of conversation, of touch, of all the different things. When we don't have that and we're trying to do everything ourselves, we don't have the right flow, the right energy going on in our lives. Everything's kind of stopped up. And so everything else is not flowing right either.
Hmm. If people are listening to this and they're feeling stopped up, you offer some free calls so they can get a little bit of guidance. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Yes. You can find it just about anywhere, but you can go to my website, and that's lauraordile.com, LAURAORDILE. It looks like Ordile, but it's Ordeal. LauraOrdile.com. You can go to the freebies section there. One of those freebies is actually a thing around color energy that I talked about. So it gives you some ideas about what all the different colors can do and bring. It has a tiny meditation that goes with it. It's about 2 minutes. So that's a super fun one to grab. There's also supercharging your success and ending procrastination. And I think there's one on astrology too. So all kinds of fun stuff. But you can also go just about anywhere on my website. If you're on the front page, scroll down and it says book a call with me or book a consultation with me. It's called the life mapping session. And we get a free 20-minute call. I sit and chat with you and we talk about what might be the best path and how would it work for both of us. It kind of gives both of us an idea of the energy, the expectations, and a simple conversation of what I can do and maybe what I can't do. If it's something I'm not sure that's going to be the right thing, I'm going to tell you. I probably know someone who can, and I might direct you there. But for the most part, let's have a conversation. I would be happy to do that.
Yeah, especially if you're feeling stuck. Take advantage of
Yeah.
those resources if you're feeling stuck, have no place to go. There's no harm in a free call, or at least check out some of the freebies. Like, I'm curious about the color guide. I don't really know too much about colors, so that's interesting to me.
I love it. And that one is pretty fun because it does tell you a lot about each color. Color is interesting because it will show you what you need to pay attention to. If you keep seeing a color, like you keep seeing blue, everything I see is blue. Well, maybe it's time for you to do a little bit of a check-in with truth and wisdom going on in your life. Are you living in truth? Are you listening to truth? Are you making the choices that are wisest for you? And if you're struggling with that, you can access that connection and bring blue in so that it can reinforce that and bring that up for you automatically. That, like I said, is super simple. The energy that's out there wants to help you. The universe wants to help you. So does your subconscious. If you initiate that action and say, I need some help, it's going to do that for you. I got you. Let's do this. You can also do that yourself. If you're like, hey, I, I really need that clarity. You can initiate the color white and bring that about literally with a sheet of paper. I always say bring an anchor in when you start the process. And I give some ideas of some anchors on that little freebie. But with white, it can just be a white sheet of paper that you sit somewhere that you walk past, might be even just next to your bed. And then when you think about that, it's like, okay, I am needing some clarity. Am I getting it? But then you'll start noticing the things that are flowing. And that's a key part. We need to notice the information we're getting. We need to notice those little aha moments and go, oh, because every time you notice it, every time you come into an awareness, it opens up all these new, amazing, wide ranges of things. So keep coming into that awareness.
And just slowing down and noticing. So the mind wants to rush you into things. And sometimes we just need to slow down, take a breath, and notice.
Absolutely.
Is there any kind of nuggets of wisdom you would impart on someone that's listening today?
A couple of them in terms of intuition. Trust your intuition, start playing with it. There's a great book by Laura Ordile called Practical Intuition, and it's great if you're getting started. I sat down with that book and it blew my mind. It gives you exercises to play with and kind of expand on and do. That's a great thing to play with your intuition and guide yourself. You are in control. You're the navigator in your life. As much as our mind runs away with us, we get to be the one that calls it back and says, I don't think I want to go into fear or anxiety right now. I want to play with what it might look like in success or joy or calm or comfort. Let your imagination work for you. Remember, you're the navigator. If you are experiencing something in your life that you're not happy with, you don't just have to live with it. Some people will tell you, you're just going to have to learn to live with that, deal with it. No, you don't.
That's perfect. That we have to remember to guide your imagination because the mind cannot tell the difference between real and fantasy. You can imagine your worst phobia and it'll be like right here in this moment because the mind doesn't know. So focus that on success for wherever you're trying to go, that there's infinite possibilities if you're just a little curious and dive deeper.
Absolutely. I am actually an infinite possibilities teacher too. How fun is that?
Because the real us is infinite. We think we're confined to this body, but we are one with the universe.
We have that at our fingertips, at our thought processes anytime we want.
All right, Laura, thank you for your time today. I appreciate having you on the conversation. It's been very interesting and enlightening and some simple tips for people to employ.
Thank you. It was great to have a conversation with you.